When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Greasecom YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be talking all about Illyrio's plan, and especially I'm talking about not where we are in the story currently, but talking about what his plan was when we're looking at the beginning of the story in a Game of Thrones when he had Viserys and Dany with him, and he was, basically helping young Griff along, and that whole plot was going on as well. What was Illyrio's plan? Because I just think there's a lot of issues that I don't think maybe he was thinking about, or some wasted opportunities that he could have had that would have maybe helped solve some issues that we see with young Griff's claim. And I want to throw out a caution. For me, this is going to be based upon that young Griff is a Blackfire. So if you don't subscribe to that, you might have some differing arguments on some of the motivations for Illyrio. But I'm going to be talking about exactly what he was doing at this point, what they were trying to do, him and Varys, and why I don't think certain amounts of it make sense when looking at Illyrio's motivations. But before we get into the video, I wanted to say, if you guys actually do have any questions for a Q&A, I'm probably going to be doing for 3,000 subscribers. We're less than, I think, 55-ish subscribers away. So if you guys did want to subscribe to help us get to 3,000, please do that if you enjoy the content. But also, again, any questions you guys want to have that'll be included in that video, put them down in the comments. That can be anything related to A Song of Ice and Fire, anything about my personal life, or just any other medium that you guys would like to talk about. But let's get into the video. So let's start and set the scene. So Illyrio starts the book in a position where he's got a lot of things going on. He's got Viserys and Dany, but he's also got young Griff. He has three people that presumably all have Targaryen blood. Regardless if young Griff is a Blackfire or Targaryen, he still has Targaryen blood. So the question is, so if Illyrio is raising young Griff to be the perfect king, the person that he actually wants to support at this time, why wouldn't he inherently wait to marry Dany to him? That is something that I find really weird. Now, I know that eventually down the road that was his plan, but that's because the plan changes. Once Dany has the dragons and she is a big player at this point, and she's, she doesn't have Khal Drogo as a husband anymore, she's a very valuable prospect for young Griff to marry. But that was not the original plan. The original plan was that, if all this stuff with Khal Drogo and Dany went through, and Viserys and the Dothraki invaded Westeros, this was kind of supposed to be like an invasion to weaken Westeros and have everything in disarray, for then young Griff to come over and be kind of the savior, kind of what he's doing now, but just in a very different context, and that plan really didn't pan out. But my issue with this plan is Illyrio isn't stupid. Illyrio knows that Viserys was not going to be patient. He was not going to be somebody that was going to wait for Drogo to do this. And I think it's very unlikely, just looking at it, that Drogo would have invaded Westeros in general without the help of Dany. Now let's put into perspective of who Dany was at this point regarding to where Illyrio thought she was as a person. Illyrio notes that he would have slept with Dany, a very weird thing to think about because of how young Dany is and who Illyrio is. But he thought that he would have slept with her, but she was too timid, and that was something that he did not like. So again, it plays on the idea that Illyrio really didn't think that Dany would be the person that she ends up becoming. So there really is no indication to believe that this plan ever would have succeeded, that the Khalasar would have came across the sea, gone to Westeros for Viserys. It's just very unlikely. Doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Now could have Illyrio been placing his bets that say, hey, maybe it happens. It's just very unlikely to me. So the other idea here would be that, okay, Dany was more being used as just something to appease the Dothraki. We know that the Pentoshi, I guess that's how you would say them as a people, have been paying off, bribing the Dothraki for years. Again, they don't really have a great army to defend themselves. They don't have good castle walls. There's not a lot defending them. If the Dothraki wanted to invade them, they could. The reason they don't is because it's just not profitable to do so. So it could have been something as simple as that, but I think Illyrio is someone that would not just get rid of one of the last Targaryens just like that when he has young Griff who's in the wing. And something else that I want to talk about here is, if Viserys is out of the way, the last male Targaryen, is theoretically dead. Because even if young Griff, and it comes out that he was a Blackfire, okay, well, the male Targaryens are gone. If you then said, okay, Dany, here you go, this is young Griff, and you're going to marry him instead of Viserys, it gives a lot of legitimacy to young Griff's claim. And another thing I'm just kind of thinking about it as I'm recording the video is, if Viserys comes over with this Khalasar, he invades, the people would not inherently like the Targaryens more. They would like them even less. Bringing over this Khalasar, these Dothraki savages, and how the Westerosi, you look at them, causing chaos and death. People wouldn't be happy that young Griff and the Targaryens are coming back. The Targaryens just broke the peace that Robert had had for a while. Yes, Robert wasn't a good king, but again, for the realm, this was a time of peace and prosperity, the longest summer that they'd seen in a very long time. People were starting to believe that this was the great long summer that would never end. So, again, there's a lot of holes I see in this plan. And the other part of this to think about is that Varys presumably knows that Robert's kids are bastards. And he even talked about this Illyrio, that the war is going to break out. So Viserys and Dany weren't needed for a war to start. That was kind of starting to loom already. And Varys didn't want that yet because, again, it was too soon, right? You didn't want this civil war to happen yet because young Griff wasn't ready. Again, these forces just weren't ready yet. You wanted it to like fester a bit longer, give more time for young Griff to develop as a person. So a lot of things are just flawed in the rationale of Illyrio and Varys. There just are some things here that just don't really make sense. Why not just like poison Viserys or just get rid of Viserys? Viserys is a liability, in my opinion, to the actual plans of putting Aegon VI or young Griff on the throne. If you get rid of Viserys and have just Dany, well, where's Dany going to go without her brother? Right? Dany is not the character she is when we get to later. Dany, when we start the story, is someone that's very timid. She doesn't stand up for herself. She's not very confident. She wouldn't just leave. If Illyrio, still offered her a home and a guest area, she would stay. So then later when you have young Griff coming up and you see all this infighting going on in Westeros, it now makes perfect sense to then marry Dany to young Griff. They'd both be on equal footing where they haven't really accomplished much, but their claims matched together would be perfect, right? And again, we see this idea that the Targaryens are fine with marrying inside their own family, so that's not really going to be the issue, right? If you're going to say that, oh, this is Rhaegar and Elliot's child, and then you also have Dany, you unite a lot of Targaryen power there. And to me, you then would probably have the backing of the Golden Company. You could then look for allies in Westeros when we see the Civil War breaking out. So to me, I think Illyrio and Varys, for the amount of credit that we maybe do or do not give them, I think they kind of had some missteps here. Dany presumably is not going to marry young Griff in the normal story. I think that is probably what makes sense. And again, it's more of a pivot plan. Illyrio pivots to young Griff marrying Dany when he sees how powerful she is, and it makes sense for young Griff to marry her. The problem is it's too late, right? There's already too many suitors trying to marry her. Tyrion talks about this exactly, that young Griff would kind of come to Dany as almost a beggar, right? It wouldn't really be seen as like, oh, this is actually a marriage proposal. Like, again, what was, I guess, young Griff actually offering Dany? And the idea would be, I guess, the Golden Company would be that idea. But you also already did have someone like Quentyn offering the power of Dorne. Now, the difference between the two would be, okay, well, Quentyn, there's no swords here now to help her. Whereas with young Griff, there would. But again, it would be a different dynamic, right? Where it would be Dany is the one with all of the power. Young Griff kind of has none of that. So again, I think you look at that idea where it just seems like a flawed rationale. Like, on paper, it makes sense, but given the situation Dany's in, where she's worried more about Essos and Meereen right now than Westeros, it was just too late, in my opinion, for that idea. And that's going to be something that we're going to see Illyrio is going to have to answer for. I think the story is leading towards, again, this meeting of Illyrio and Dany and Pentos, because right now, Dany believes that Illyrio is a friend. We see her thinking about this all the time. So when is that going to come to a head when Tyrion starts to tell her? I mean, Illyrio is not someone that's trustworthy. He's, you know, he's harboring this Targaryen, but even Tyrion doesn't really believe that he is the son of Rhaegar and Elia. So how is that going to play out? And also, when you look at it from Dany's point of view, you're sitting here going, okay, you were training this guy here to be a great king while my brother was alive, which meant you never were backing him, really. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. There's so many like ways you look at about the way Illyrio and Varys were planning, and there's a lot of holes in it. Things that I don't think they really prepared for or thought through. Let me know what you guys think on this. Like, why didn't Illyrio just kind of kill off Viserys in one way or another? It wouldn't have been that hard. He's an idiot. And then marry Dany to young Griff when the time was right. I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea. But let me know what you guys all think. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I really do enjoy talking about really anything with like young Griff, and he's such a fascinating character. But yeah, if you guys want me to do a video on Illyrio's plan, and talking about how his interaction with Dany is going to go in Winds of Winter, let me know, and I will try to do that as well. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.